Why do Americans think the two-party system still works? That's a really good question. Maybe it's because they've been brainwashed to think so for a very long time. America was very prosperous for a long time in spite of both parties. Politicians always take personal credit when the economy is doing well and blame everyone and everything else for when the economy is doing poorly like it is now. Politicians in both parties are basically puppets now. They are beholden to the people who donated large amounts of money to help them get elected. What happens when the really hits the fan and America is in a Great Depression like it is now? That's another really good question. Well, I suppose both parties will initially try to blame the other for being the root cause of all of the problems. But the truth is both parties equally caused this mess over the last few decades, with all of their report projects and massive spending programs to fund the warfare state. Republicans like to borrow and spend and pretend they are starving the beast. Democrats prefer to tax and spend and want to redistribute income. Is there really any significant difference between both the Republicans and the Democrats? Not really. Not anymore anyways. The lines have definitely been blurred between the two, especially from an economic standpoint. They both are for big government. The only thing both parties seem to disagree on really is where to spend all of the loot they take from the U.S. taxpayer and which large corporation, large political campaign contributor or special interest group to give the pork to. This is very true. Both parties support the Federal Reserve System of central banking and need the Federal Reserve and the Bank through inflation to help fund their spending programs. Both parties also use Keynesian economics as their economic guide. And we all know how Keynesians think some inflation is a good thing. If both parties were truly different, they would not be using the same economics. That's a really good point. Why hasn't anyone in the mainstream media brought up the fact that both parties are really not that different anymore because they both use the same economics? Shouldn't the fact that both parties use Keynesian economics prove conclusively that there is now little difference between the Democrats and the Republicans? The media, especially the mainstream media, is not doing a good job in the role of watchdog anymore. The media is supposed to remain as objective as possible and do real investigative journalism, ask the tough questions to everyone on anything and to remain very unbiased. Would you say that's the case anymore? Definitely not. Many people in the media are clearly picking sides. Opinion is misconstrued as fact and the American people are constantly misled into believing a certain viewpoint. I think the truth is neither the mainstream media nor the Republicans or Democrats want any kind of significant changes to be made to the current system. Everyone currently in power heavily benefits from how the system is structured. And what about the lobbyists? The lobbyists might actually benefit the most from how this current political system is structured. Business has actually never been better on K Street these days. But isn't everyone supposed to be cutting back? That's not happening with the lobbyists. There's more of them in D.C. than ever before. Salaries are also going up and they are now writing the legislation instead of Congress. Did you know a member of Congress will not even read a piece of legislation now before they sign it into law? And guess who wrote the legislation? Lobbyists. Are you kidding me? This is like a bad joke? More like a nightmare. Can the current political system be fixed? Can both parties and lobbying be reformed? Will any politician from either of the two parties be able to cause any significant changes? I don't think so. I think things will get much worse before they get better. The political process, for all intents and purposes, is broken. What is happening now is not how the Founding Fathers designed the American political process to work. The current political system is broken and irreparable. What do you mean? Do you mean the system has been completely corrupted? I mean that Alexis de Tocqueville was right about how he said Americans would eventually all vote themselves free things. Americans are all very spoiled because they think things should stay the same from decades past. It is a sense of entitlement and privilege. America is no longer the productive machine it was in decades past. We are the world's largest debtor nation in the history of the world. We literally borrow money daily from foreign creditor nations like China just to keep the lights on. Americans want low taxes and also not to have their social programs that directly benefit them cut. Cut the other guy's social programs, but not mine. Raise the other guy's taxes, but not mine. It's hypocritical. Americans can no longer have their cake and eat it too. Cheap oil and imperialism come with a tremendous cost.